Welcome to another episode of the Conquer Cast. I'm here with a special guest today, Dr. Preston Ward. I'm super excited to have you here. Grateful for your time and attention. And we've been trying to put this together for quite some time now. You serve on our advisory board. A lot of the articles you see in the blog are written by Dr. Preston Ward. And there's a lot of great insight, great education materials, and I want to have them onto our Facebook group and such, and hopefully this is one of those educational pieces just through our conversation that people will be able to learn about you, kind of what you've been doing, some of the risks you've taken in life to do what you're doing, the team that you've put together to make it all happen, and hopefully the Mountain Ops community is paying attention and they take away a lot of what you have to offer. Because you're a super smart guy. I've known you for years now. Not only smart, but then you've got a very compassionate side. I'm just, for some reason right now, as I'm talking about Dr. Preston Ward, a moment comes to mind where you actually came to visit my dad in their home. Just out of the goodness of your heart, you showed up to help him. He had a couple falls and had broken his hips, and they came home from a mission. He wasn't doing good, and he needed some encouragement. He needed some motivation. And you gave him some exercises, left him with some bands, and then he did that. He did what you told him to do. And I don't know if you remember that night, but he was so happy to have you there.
I do, yeah.
Do you remember?
Your mom and your dad?
My mom and my dad.
Genuine people, really.
Yeah,
just great people.
Yeah, and so I appreciate that. I appreciate anyone that got to know my dad. My mom obviously is still here, but anyone that got to know my dad and got to spend some time with him, and the service you rendered to them just means a lot to me. So I'll always be grateful for that.
Yeah.
That just came to mind. Tell us in a nutshell, who are you?
So my name is Dr. Preston Ward, but just Preston for this as
well. We'll go to Preston.
Preston.
You earned it, man.
It was a lot of school. Went to the University of Utah. So who I am is basically, went to the University of Utah, grew up in Utah here my whole life, started hunting from a young age, as early as I can remember, probably honestly like 2 years old. I remember sitting at our this double wide trailer that we called our cabin up in the mountains here in Utah by Logan, and sitting there in sleeping bags on the hill with my dad, or just like walking out with my BB gun trying to shoot. My grandma always got mad at me. I just told the story the other day at a summit that my grandma got mad at me because I was trying to shoot hummingbirds.
Oh, really?
I was hitting her hummingbird feeders and breaking the hummingbird feeders. She's like, Preston, don't do that. But been doing that really, like the outdoors my entire life. And went to the University of Utah. I'm married right now, have a little girl as well, and try to spend as much time as we can outside, and in addition to growing this business and growing this brand. And so that's a little bit about me.
Yeah, and the business and the brand is Mountain Physio.
Yeah.
So you're a physical therapist, and we'll talk a little bit about that, because I want to talk about where you've been with your physical therapy and who you're servicing, who you're helping right now, who you've helped in the past. But you're focusing in on the outdoor industry, which is an industry that you love. It sounds like your dad got you into the outdoors. Was this kind of generational? Did his dad get him into the outdoors? How far back does that go, the love and the passion of the outdoors?
Yeah, it goes back as far as I can remember. So my dad and then his dad hunted a little bit. So my grandpa mostly fished. And so actually now, just maybe a couple weeks ago, my grandpa had passed, I think, 15 years ago. But as my grandma's getting older, she's like, hey, Preston, I want you to have all of grandpa's old fishing stuff. So I've been tying flies and learning that. So and I actually have his old fishing hat and everything. And I guess, anyways,
that's awesome.
So it's pretty cool there. So then going beyond that, I think, so his grandpa really was into a lot more hunting. And back then it was different though. And I think that's what's so exciting about where we're at in this generation, generation and industry. And time frame, I guess is what I would say, is because Mountain Ops has been very motivational for me over the years, and the different people in it,
Yeah.
and even like some of the ambassadors of like Cam Hanes and things.
Yeah.
But now we're seeing this hunting and outdoor passion, I'll call it, because it probably goes beyond just hunting. But it's
Right.
it's not just a back then hunting was really, we'll call it like a weekend in
Yeah.
October.
Yeah.
It was really, and that's kind of how
Yeah.
I grew up, was it was a weekend in October. And then transitioning and seeing, being inspired by so many of these great people within the industry, and in Mountain Ops, and then Cam Hanes, and you have these people that are doing things 365 days a year. And I could list off
Yeah.
dozens of people who are doing that. And then you start to see like, hey, there's a lot of opportunities, and not only that, but there's a lot of time to be out in the outdoors, bring my family along, and watching some of your story, getting your kids into
Yeah.
hunting. And you and I actually shared a hunting camp
Yeah. That's, yeah.
with our wives and
We should
everything.
we should dive into that a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's just fun to see, like, now hunting is no longer a weekend endeavor
Yeah.
in the fall. It's people are
It's
training.
their lifestyle.
It's their lifestyle. The people are training. It's our passion. It's our lifestyle. They're training, 365 days a year, which is really a big motivation for why we jumped into this space, is
Mm.
because when I sat there at an archery shop here local, close by at Wild Arrow,
Yeah.
and someone was complaining of shoulder pain, and he's like, I'm gonna not be able to shoot my bow.
Mm.
He wasn't talking to me, he was talking to his buddy. I was just overhearing this conversation right after my residency, and I thought, man, there should be a doctor, there should be a physical therapist helping these athletes. We push ourselves just as hard, and there's not. So, and then this light bulb clicked in my brain, like, that's you,
Yeah.
Preston. That's going to be so I really,
That's
honestly,
cool.
Trevor, I really feel I don't know. I feel like it's my calling in
Yeah.
life. As funny as
It's
that
awesome.
maybe
No, I
sounds,
love it.
like,
It's awesome.
that's why I'm in this space, and I love it. I love working with our athletes. We work with really 99% of our athletes that we work with are avid outdoorsmen, hunters, and just enjoy this space. So
That's so cool. That's so cool. Let's dive into the hunt a little bit,
yeah,
and let's share a little bit about the hunt we did together. But w- I'm recalling some things right now. It was one of our first interactions. We were talking about mules.
you probably, yeah.
Okay, because so if
Yeah,
you remember,
I know
we
where you're going with
I
this.
was like, yeah, that was Preston. So Preston was telling me about all the hunting they were doing with mules,
Yeah,
or with their mule. I
yeah.
think you were
I
saying
think
with
it's,
my
yeah,
mule.
mule. Yeah,
And so I'm following. I'm like, yeah, I'm in the back of my mind. I'm thinking, I do the same thing. I, I was like, hey, another guy that hunts with a mule.
yeah,
This is awesome. And then I can't remember what I said or something. I was like the Kawasaki mule, right? And,
yeah,
and you're like, no, like a horse mule.
yeah.
And so the whole time I'm sitting here imagining you driving the same ATV that or UTV that I'm driving. And yeah, so we
Yeah.
both have hunted with mules, but I'm, you're on one that's more like a horse, and
Yeah.
I'm on one that's like a ranch.
Style
Yes,
ATV.
yeah, exactly. So, anyways, so you do a lot of hunting on your mule.
Yeah, that is 100% my favorite thing to do. We just got back from a bear hunt a couple weeks ago,
Where were
and
you?
we packed down in eastern Utah there, on a limited entry hunt there. And
Cool.
so
Was that your tag
it
or
was my tag, yeah, and didn't get one. I
okay?
was I was so bummed, but it's okay. I was with my dad actually, and he's 70, and so this is really a big part of this as well. Is It was really interesting watching my dad this last trip. Who, I mean, the 3 days that we were there, we rode 70 miles
Mm.
on saddle mules.
Saddle mules.
So that doesn't sound like very much on a Kawasaki mule, or a Baku bike.
No.
But it was a lot on, it's a lot on,
Yeah.
when you put 26, 27 miles on a mule in a day, it's an all day
Yeah.
endeavor. And it was really interesting watching my dad just almost struggle to get up onto his mule.
Mm.
Limited hip mobility, limited, back strength. He's a little bit stiff. He's always had this labor intensive kind of blue collar job,
Yeah.
and he's retired. And it was just really hard for me to see. And I'm like, Dad, we you got to do some stuff. Like, these are the
Mm.
exercises similar to your
Yep.
dad, that I'm like, you got to be doing this. And I think that's from a clinician's perspective. Like, when I see all these hunters that are like, I'm, old enough, I can't do it anymore. Now we're seeing people want to do this for the rest of
Yeah.
their life. And there's no excuse other than it just takes time to really put in the work.
Yeah.
to exercise and stay healthy. So I don't know where I was going with that, but
No,
but the
that's
mules were fun, and that's my absolute. That's what I was saying. Is my absolute passion there is these backpacking trips, these packing trips, and stuff like that. It's just fun.
what's your favorite animal to hunt?
Oh man, you gotta love hunting mule deer, really.
Is it mule deer?
Big mule deer are fun up in the high country because you're just
Yeah.
up there with very little, usually there's a little water and it's just a kind of more intense hunt. And then elk hunting's always, elk hunting's always a fun one because you can pack in, but
Yeah.
it's just a little bit more, it's a little different, right? As you're
Yeah.
a little bit deeper into the woods.
Yeah.
The mule deer hunt because you can get into these big basins and you can
Yeah.
glass things and
Yeah, that's cool.
it's just really fun. So
That's
that's
awesome.
probably my favorite.
No, really cool. You sounds like you've hunted a lot with your dad. I'm sure that relationship. What's that relationship? What has hunting done for your relationship with you and your father, and
Yeah.
maybe others that you've been close to over the years that you've hunted with?
Yeah, really, it's my dad and brother, and then now friends. And I think we'll talk about this because this is my wife now,
Yeah.
who's got into it. But it's really built some of like the fondest memories that I have as a child, and that relationship of really doing hard things together. I think again, hunting for us used to be I'd go on the muzzleloader hunt, and I think I shot my first deer at 14 with a muzzleloader with my brother by my side, and then my dad would always be there with the
Mm,
mules to come in,
yeah.
and like he's like, I'm here for you, and he
Mm.
doesn't care to pull the trigger anymore. He's like, I just want to be there watching you
Watch his
guys.
boys. Yeah.
So that was kind of hard actually about this last, like I said, this last bear hunt is watching him just. I realized that he probably his time's not far
Yeah.
off, that he's probably not going to be able to do that as much, and so it was hard to see. And I think anyone that's probably listening to this that has that um, relationship with their, whether it's their mom, their dad, siblings, anything like that, they hunt with their hunting partners. There's something special about that
Hmm.
being in the mountains. And I think I like to think about it as mountain physio. I'm sure you've thought about this as well, as far as like mountain ops goes. Is it we think of the mountains being this really kind of spiritual place
Yeah.
too,
Yeah.
and it really is that
It
for
is.
us as well.
That's cool. It is. I think that's great advice to give to the listener, that sometimes you feel like, hey, everything's good, everyone around me is healthy. This We'll just keep doing this year after year, and then age or accident
Hmm.
or whatever, and life comes up, and it's like you never know
Hmm.
what the next hunt may look like, who might be missing from that
Yeah.
hunt, who may not just be able to come now. And so it's great advice to take advantage of the time we have, and in
Yeah.
those moments fully lean in and experience them with those relationships that matter most, because you just never know
Yeah.
what's around, what's on top of the next mountain, or what's on the
Yeah.
other side. And I've learned that firsthand. And then watching your father,
Yeah.
our time is finite, and so take advantage of it as much as
Yeah.
possible, right?
Yeah. And that was fun about that hunt with us down in
New
New
Mexico.
Mexico, and it was a beautiful ranch, such a beautiful place. And with my wife who got this hunt, and watching her like experience that, never really she grew up, her dad hunted but never really hunted with her.
Yeah.
She actually, when she married me, she's like, I didn't know you were she knew I was a hunter, but she's like, Dad, I didn't know you have any guns or anything like that. So like her whole life she didn't know that. And so for her to actually pull the trigger, afterwards she's like, okay, I can see why, like, this could be not just fun, but it's also that spiritual experience
Yeah.
of taking a life and like really being grateful for what to the Lord for what we have, really.
So true. Yeah. So let's talk about that hunt really quick. It was fun. Your wife was on a winning streak that year. I
Yeah,
think
it
at
was great.
was that all at the Hunt Expo that all transpired?
Yeah.
She won
Yeah.
a Baku scooter or something.
Yeah,
Or
we went to the concert, and she won a Baku scooter there,
yeah,
like the grand prize.
yeah,
And then the next day, well, I guess the next day was probably the end of the Hunt Expo. It was probably that Sunday. And a couple days later, then they picked her name for it was a Mountain Ops drawing
yeah.
which was not jaded. I know that. A Mountain Ops drawing with Hush as well. And so she won a Weatherby rifle, a scope
Okay.
with Vortex, the hunt, and it was just a cool.
Yeah, that's
She
right.
was on a winning streak.
She was on a winning streak. It was crazy. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
And so And I don't think I can't remember if the plan was for us to go with you guys or
I
if
don't
it,
remember
like,
either.
came about where it's like, "Hey, this somebody from Mountain Ops needs to take the wards,"
Yeah.
and it's I think me and Jenna were like, "We'll go with
Yeah.
them," you know? And so, this was to Vermejo,
Mhm.
and this was a ranch. It's about 500,000 acres,
Yeah.
down in New Mexico. Just incredible. It almost feels like a ghost town that you're
Yeah.
showing up to, but these old buildings are just immaculate and
Yeah.
they're old and but the inside of them there's you can feel the history in it,
Mhm.
right? I don't know, I don't even know how to describe it.
I
How would
know.
you?
It's like this old the New Mexico style houses, I guess. And I
Yeah.
think that's the same thing. I was just at this, like I said, this other ranch this last weekend, and it was all brand new cabins and everything. And I kept comparing it to, I don't have many of those experiences. Mostly it's all public land
Yeah.
stuff, but that cabin in the Vermejo is just this old, like the history. I think they were probably built in like the
Yeah.
1800s, almost,
Yeah.
seriously, 1900s maybe, but they were old and
Yeah.
they were beautiful though.
Yeah, beautiful, and, just the terrain and the environment there was incredible, and so and I remember the meals at night, every night I'd
Yeah.
order the, quail knots.
Exactly.
I was just like, "This is so much better than buffalo wings," but it tasted like a buffalo wing, but just a small, quail knot that
Exactly.
you didn't have to worry about the bone, and it just tasted so good, so quail was definitely the highlight of my menu,
Mine too.
my eating experience there. But then both of our wives, it was your wife's first big
Hmm.
game hunt.
Yeah.
But both of our wives were able to harvest beautiful buffalo.
Yeah.
In fact, I don't know if you saw down in
I
the
need to
lobby,
look.
Jenna's
Was it there?
just came back from Monarch
Awesome.
Mountain taxidermy with the shoulder mount and a rug. We just need to find a place on the wall now for it. But yeah, so your wife, a spiritual experience, an incredible experience being with you. What more did she share about that? And what did that mean for you two to have that experience together?
I think for her to see like how much, work and effort and just the passion I guess I have for the hunting and the outdoor space. It was fun for her to see that because she's like, I can
Mm,
see why you like this. I can
yeah.
see why, maybe it's, yeah, that wasn't necessarily the hardest of hunts, but um, she's like, I can see why you like this. And it's really fun for her to say, like, I provided this animal for
Yeah.
us to, so we're still actually eating some
Yeah.
of the
Same.
meat. Like, we still actually have a lot of it that we're eating. And so for her to say that, I think that's a very powerful tool for as we try to live to be what self
Self-sustaining.
self-sustaining.
Yeah.
For her to say that and be able to show our daughter, like, it meant a lot.
Yeah.
So it was
There's
fun.
an element of pride that, like, it's like, and my wife feels it and I feel it for her too. When we were just in Lake Powell for 2 weeks, and we went down with a bunch of seniors, graduates, with my daughter, and the spaghetti sauce that had meat in it was Jenna's bison.
Bison, nice.
And then we had tacos one night and it was Jenna's
Yeah.
bison. And every night I would go around to, especially all the boys there, and I'd be like, "Hey, did you know what we're eating?" And they're like, "What? This is beef." And I was like, "No, it's bison." And
Yeah.
Jenna,
Shot
and
it. Yeah.
and somebody said to her, "Man, you killed it," what they say for about dinner. I was like, "Oh, you killed it," and she
Yeah.
actually did.
Yeah.
And but it's so cool, and I'm so proud of them for taking those
Mhm.
opportunities to experience this passion, and
Yeah.
then it becomes part of their passion, and they understand it a little bit more.
Yeah.
But there is a respect and a reverence around the life-giving
Yeah.
life,
Yeah.
and taking an animal, but then putting it to use with friends and family and providing, and you're knowing where it's come from and the work that went into it.
Hmm.
And like you said, not a physically demanding hunt, but it was incredible to watch those animals and to
Hmm.
see them in their element, and then to be able to now take that and provide it to friends and family. It's
Yeah.
awesome.
It
So
is so cool. It's something that she said afterwards. She's like, okay, I could get used to this hunting thing. And so then I took her on a hunt last year that she drew out on, and it was an antelope hunt. And man, I just should have listened to my intuition, but I get so much, like, I'm like, okay, there's some antelope over there, let's go over there. And then I look back and they're sitting at the blind, and I'm like, I should have known better. So she got to experience the
and that's hunting
she got to
too, right?
experience the unpunched tag, I'm gonna
Yeah.
say, on that one. And
Yeah.
I kick myself because I'm like, it's probably because of me, but she actually shot at some, which I was
Oh,
proud of her
cool.
for being confident enough
Yeah.
to understand the rangefinder. This was a bow hunt. understand the rangefinder
How
and
cool.
draw back and shoot. So it was really cool. And she actually did it all by herself. And
Wow.
then she was sitting in the blind with my daughter, and a coyote came into the water hole, and I was back kind of dealing with the trailer, trying to get it ready to go home. And then I got there, and they're like, "Yeah, this coyote came in," and they were just so excited. And so
Mm,
for her to those two to have the same experience together was cool. So it's kind of fun. Like,
that's awesome.
yeah, my wife's really enjoyed it.
What for somebody that's listening that's not has never hunted or they're curious about it, like any advice you'd give them on getting into hunting or what to look forward to
I think, yeah, get a mentor. There's so many out there that are willing, and honestly, there's so many of these. The summit that I went to was with Outdoor Solutions and Hunt and Fool.
Hmm,
It's called the Built to Hunt Summit, and there's a lot of those different summits there that they offer like a weekend. It was 4 days basically of education on long range shooting. They
hmm,
harvested a couple animals. When I say harvested, they had chefs there, they had butchers there, kind of breaking down the meat, and
cool.
that was my first time ever going to one of those.
Wow.
I've presented at a Mountain Ops
Yeah.
Summit, I think up in Snow Basin
Oh yeah.
once
Yep.
before. But this one was actually like it was extreme. It was done so well, and there were probably half, so 10 out of the 20 people were brand new hunters that had never
Cool.
shot guns, never seen an animal there lying on the ground. And so some of them had some queasy stomachs, but at the end
Yeah.
of the day, they overcame some of these challenges and hurdles. And for me, even an experienced tenured hunter, um, it was so cool to see that summit really with
How
somebody.
cool.
So there's a lot of those out there, women's only ones, men only ones.
Yeah.
There's just a lot. So
There's always something new to learn too. I feel
yeah,
like, I haven't been hunting as long as you have, but I still feel like I'm just scratching the surface,
yeah,
and it can be a little overwhelming if you're getting into it. But I think that the perfect advice is find a mentor. And
yeah.
what I found is in this industry, there's a lot of people that are willing to welcome you in,
Oh
where
yeah,
sometimes you get into a new space and people want to keep it to themselves or put, and there's probably some of that. I haven't experienced a lot of that though. I've experienced the opposite where people have been very helpful. They
yeah,
they want to mentor. I actually had a conversation a couple weeks ago with an individual where I mentioned the word mentor and he said, "Hey, I don't take that word lightly. Like, what does that mean?"
yeah,
And I didn't like it when he asked me that. I didn't I didn't give the response I wanted. But honestly, a mentor is somebody that's experienced something. They can look back and lift the person they once were.
yeah,
They can show the way. They can offer empathy. They can offer advice. They can say, hey, avoid this pitfall. They
yeah.
can, and there's a lot of different things you can get wrapped up in hunting. And for some people it's bird hunting and big game and this and that, that you kind of find your way and
Hmm.
find a mentor in that space. And I guarantee people will let you in. And if you're a female listening to this, and there's a lot of that, the female demographic of hunting is growing
It's
a lot
growing.
right
Yeah,
now. We see that with our own wives and with our
yep,
daughters, getting involved. And I think that there's plenty of opportunities in the space to find mentors that way as well. Not only through maybe your spouse or fathers or whatnot, but Candy and Randy Yao offer a ladies
hmm,
hunting
yep,
camp
yep,
every year that we've sent individuals here at Mountain Ops to,
yeah,
and they've absolutely loved it. They did the same thing. They kind of broke down animals. They learned how to back trailers up,
hmm.
so they had like different courses
That's
they
cool.
do. And these were skill sets that these ladies came back from saying, this was incredible. Like I
Yeah,
can I can add these tools to my toolbox now. And it's all about becoming self-sufficient,
yep,
self-sustaining, and we want to be that in life. There's so much out of our control in life,
hmm,
and so any amount of control we can kind
yeah,
of possess, it's good. And that comes from learning and developing, and oftentimes it comes through mentorship.
yeah,
So I am so
100%.
grateful for the mentors in my life, and especially as I've gotten into the hunting industry, those that have taken me under their
Yeah.
wing. So um no, that's cool. What'd your daughter think of your wife coming back with the meat and the the animal and stuff? What were her thoughts?
She thought it was cool. She's like, "Gosh, mom, you're like so cool." Basically, she is young, and I think I showed her a picture when my wife, killed the buffalo. I got some of the blood and I put it on her
Yeah,
cheeks
I
and
remember
stuff.
that.
So she's still like, I still love that picture. And
Yeah.
so my daughter will still show her friends, be like, yeah, that's my mom right there.
That's so cool.
So it is fun.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So let's dive into Mountain Physio and what you're doing for the outdoor
Yeah.
industry to help people with their health and their well-being and their, the prevention and
Yeah.
that type of thing. Tell us what the path's been like because, and let's not dive right into like what you're doing. Let's talk about your entrepreneurial journey for a
Yeah.
minute because you go through all this school, you become a doctor, you have security, and then you decide through this calling that you felt called to do, like, I'm gonna leave some security and I'm gonna start my own thing. And I
Mhm.
know what that's like. And it's that takes some faith. And it comes with some great anxiety at
Yeah.
times. What's this process look like to you? Tell us how it came about and give us a little bit of your history that way.
Yeah, your story and the Mountain Up story has always been so inspirational to me, and there's I think there been some similarities and
Yeah.
probably a lot more similarities than I know
I think
of.
there's been a lot.
But it was yeah. So I was again just out of residency and thought you heard this guy complaining of shoulder pain. I said I'm going to start up my practice, start up my business specifically for hunters.
When
And
was this? How long ago?
this was now we're going on 7 years.
Yeah.
So 7 years. Mountain Ops is how old? 11,
11.
right?
Yeah.
So 7 years ago, and then continued to work at the university at the time at the University of Utah, and then just kind of was kind of using it as a side hustle,
Yeah.
and it was good. I actually think I saw my first patient. Actually, I know I did. I'm trying to think if I. Oh yeah, I know exactly who it is. My first patient. I remember
Mhm.
coming up here. We had
Was
built a
that mountain?
relationship. It was at Mountain Ops at the time. Then I think we had a relationship, a growing relationship, and
Yeah.
I was like, I don't have a place to
Yeah.
practice. Where am I going to do this? What's my model? And so I said, hey, can I come up there? And you're like, yeah, come up, use the gym. That's fine.
Yeah.
So again, mentorship there. And so I saw a patient, and I still remember. I think I have a picture of me. Um, our practice is a cash pay practice, and so walking away with like this $100 bill, or I think it was what it was, or something like that. I don't even
Yeah.
know how much it was. Walking away with it and being like, I just got paid for
That's
helping
awesome.
someone and doing something. Like this is great. This is working.
That's awesome. I didn't know your first patient was seen here at Mountain Ops. That's cool.
I think I have a picture of
That's
the
awesome.
area. It was back in that corner,
Yeah.
the kid area.
Yeah.
So we have
Yeah, there was a wall, like a pony wall
a
built.
little pony wall.
Yep.
So we have a non-traditional practice really, and because I think for the hunter, it's really trying to see them. The model is really trying to see hunters and outdoorsmen whenever and wherever they need it. So sometimes they're in the field. Sometimes we go to the field with them. We go to the archery range and sorts of things like that. So that was one of the big things. So we started then 7 years ago, continued to work again as a side hustle. Then I went and transitioned from the U up to the VA, which was a good job. It's just so extremely stressful there.
Mm.
It was more stress in my life than I've ever
Mm.
had, and so then finally got to this about a year. We've now been on our own for yeah, almost 16 months now, we'll call
Wow.
it. So to me, that's a big win.
That's huge. It's massive.
From a young entrepreneur, I'm like, that's a win. At least could be
It's
able to
huge.
provide for
Yeah,
my
congrats.
family. Thank you. And so, um, yeah, decided to one of the motivating factors to leave the VA mostly was I found that I wasn't doing what I was preaching
Yeah.
to my clients and patients, right? I'm like, you got to exercise, you got to stay fit. I didn't have the time. I was so overworked and everything else, had so much stuff going on in my life that I was like, that's not worth it to me to leave this very stable, secure job. It's not worth it to stay here.
Mm.
And so I'm like, I've got to get away. I've got to
Mm.
be able to do this. This is my, and I hope people listening to this realize that, like, if you're in this a stressful, hard situation, like exercise is so important, not just for, it's also for mental
Yeah.
clarity and
Not just for the physique
just not, yeah, not for the
or
physique.
yeah, but for the mental health.
Mental health is a huge thing that we're really big on. And so it's like, you've got to be doing that. And so I just mentally was not in a good
Mm.
space. I left and then,
Takes a lot of guts for somebody to say, hey,
yeah.
to recognize like this isn't good for me. It's not healthy for
It wasn't
me.
good for me. It wasn't good for my
Your
family.
family.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so okay, that's where a lot of people, they just continue on in that
They
path
just
though,
continue, yeah.
because usually it's because of fear,
Mhm.
fear of failure. One thing and a past guest talked to me about was it's not necessarily that we're afraid of failing, it's we're afraid of having people see us fail.
Yeah.
That ever crossed your mind as you're kind of, okay, I'm
Yeah.
going to do
And
this?
I think to me the biggest f- fear still in there probably is showing like my daughter, right? And having being a failure to my wife and my daughter and letting them down, right? And I don't think they, and I know that they would say that you never let us down and
Yeah.
like they don't feel that way. But from a provider's perspective, from my father's perspective, a husband's perspective, it's my role to really go out and make some money so that we can provide, so that
Yeah.
I can have food on the table,
Yeah.
so that I can pay our bills overhead, right, and have a warm place for my daughter to sleep. And like that was, I know that's there's some
Right.
similarities there, and that was a very hard thing to say, okay, we're going to take this risk that we have right now. We're going to take this opportunity. And I did realize there in business that you can only get, there's only so much time in a day.
Yeah.
You can only get so far. And that's where I was at. I was just at my max. And from a business perspective, looking at books and everything, looking at our accounting, there was a point that we got to that we just really like we were growing exponentially for about 4 years, and then on that about fifth year, we really kind of just plateaued,
Mm.
and it was ultimately just because there wasn't enough time in a day, and
Yeah.
so I that's when we decided as well like we've got to really either go all in or not, because we're at this point that we can just be overworked. And
Yeah.
that was another big factor is I was working at the when I was working at the VA is I would I do a lot of events and things and summits and seminars, and
Yeah.
people ask me to come on as guests and stuff, which is really fun because they want to showcase what mountain physio can do for the outdoorsman and the hunter and keeping people active. So I would basically save up my vacation time at work to be able
Mm.
to go work at an
Work.
event, and then come fall time when I wanted to go or any vacation, like I had no
Mm.
vacation. So that was a huge part of the stress. And so took the leap and really haven't looked back.
Wow.
Like it's been, but
I would,
it's so stressful though.
it's so stressful. Let's talk about some of those stresses, but like, I would say, there's the fear of maybe looking like a failure to your wife or your daughter, and is this really going to work? And obviously, you want to provide, but I would say there was so much success in you just making that decision, and hopefully, as you talk to your daughter and your wife about that, like looking at, I'm in this situation where this is affecting my health and my well being, especially with the two of you,
Yeah.
and I'm willing to take a risk to improve that. You just sound like a man of integrity, in my opinion, saying like, this is most important. I'm going to put that first. I'm going to put our well-being first. And yes, I need to provide, but that'll come if we build something special. And if I go after what I feel called and inspired to do, there's so much success already in just taking that first step of
Yeah.
that leap of faith.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, leaving and feeling like this burden off my shoulders that
mm,
I'm like, and then it was like the next day, and that's been a big challenge from a business perspective. I think as a entrepreneur, you have to be able to have. We were just talking about this earlier, but you have to be able to, you have to be able to do everything within the
mm,
business,
yeah,
marketing, the accounting, the in my perspective, in my role, it's seeing patients
yeah,
and everything. And so you have to be able to do everything. And so now we're at this point of again growing and scaling, and there's some more challenges involved there, but it's been really fun to see like the growth. And now that we could put more time into it, it's just grown even more.
yeah,
So it's really interesting because I've had a lot of other people, other fitness and fitness, not influencers, but just gurus, we'll call them, or trainers, or even other doctors, other physical therapists that are like, "Gosh, we love what you do. It's so awesome. And it's amazing." And so a lot of them, yeah, have reached out, and it's been interesting to see because I think so many people they're like, "Man, Preston, all you do is hunt, and you have this great thing." And I'm like, "You don't see behind the scenes that it's like I'm spending probably, you know, 100 hours or more on the every
Yeah.
day working to build this, and it's so a lot of effort goes into it. But I do feel very grateful for where we're at, and I think from a space perspective as well, like we came into this space really kind of pioneering this
Yeah.
this movement within like clinicians, doctors, therapists, really pioneering the movement within the outdoor space, and so it's been really fun to do that.
That's awesome. So as an entrepreneur, you're taking these risks, like what have been um the biggest stressors for somebody that's listening? They're like, hey, should I take this step? Like, what are they going to experience, and how have you overcome some of those stresses, or those, or you
Yeah,
still feel them?
probably.
They just kind of change. They just kind of change over time, right? Like,
Yeah.
what's your advice to? Because I think we're on this thing of mentorship.
Yeah.
Like, how do you look back and help somebody that may be in the shoes that you were in 16 months ago when you were trying to make
Yeah.
these decisions? And
Yeah, I think if you can really look at again, I think everyone has to take their own health into consideration. I want to say this is a common saying that just popped into my head that you guys will often say, Mountain Ops will often say, and I've heard you say that before you can lift others, you have to be able to lift
yeah,
yourself. You have
yeah,
to be self-sustaining, right? And that's the whole conquer hunger, I think,
yeah,
aspect of it is like let's lift other people, but you really got to be
yeah,
helping yourself too, and they go hand in hand for sure. So I think if someone's in that boat, and some of the stressors I guess that I've experienced is um you got to almost just like you got to really take that leap of faith really to do it after everything. Like we went through all the numbers, and even when we my wife and I first got married, we're like, how are we making it, how are we going to how are we going to make do, right, with
yeah,
living and stuff. But um yeah, it's taking that leap. I think it's weighing where you want to be in life and seeing that vision and having that vision. For me, we have this vision of where we want to grow this
yeah.
practice, and so having that vision and just relying on that, and then the mentorship for sure of asking not just advice, but like I think it really comes down to like what drives you, what is that mission that you have. Our mission at Mountain Physio is to ultimately get you to the mountains, do everything it takes to get you there, but also keep you there,
Hmm,
whatever those mountains are.
that's cool.
Is it biking? Is it snowboarding, skiing? Is it hunting, fishing? Is it just being outdoors? Is it, whatever it is with your family? Like it's get you there and keep you there. And if we
That's
can
really cool.
keep you there, then ideally you have just this better quality of life and you live longer and everything else. And so, yeah, that's
That's
just
good.
some of the
That's
some
great
of the
advice.
thoughts.
That's great advice. So if somebody's coming to you for the first time and they're like, okay, what does Mountain Physio do? Like, what do you offer to our listeners and to those that you're approaching or those that are
Yeah.
approaching you?
Yeah, our model's really fun because we obviously work with people here in Utah, and across the Wasatch Front. We'll go to their homes and things, so it's a very mobile practice that way. But really worldwide, so we've seen people from New Zealand,
Hmm.
and when I say we've seen them, we've worked with them virtually. So we do a very big remote. We have a very big remote footprint. So we'll work with people in New Zealand, we'll work with people in Europe, all over the place. And these are just people that again want to just continue to hunt, or they're going on a hunt, or they've heard of us on different podcasts and stuff.
Pretty
Uh,
effective too. I always thought you got to be with the doctor in person to get the things done, but I remember Beckham was having
yeah,
some growth
yeah, yeah,
issues that you jumped on a Zoom with us years. I mean, this is,
yeah.
I don't know, maybe 7, 6 years
That's
ago,
right.
and you worked with him through the motions and the movements, and then
Yeah.
did some follow up, and it was actually quite effective
Yeah, it is a very effective. It's been a very effective model
and
to.
accommodating to the,
Yeah,
like, you don't. I would prefer not to go to a doctor's
exactly,
office, you know.
exactly, and that's where I think we've really kind of developed this niche within the hunting industry for sure. But it's expensive to go to the doctor's
Mhm.
office. It's expensive not just expensive from a monetary standpoint, but takes time out
Yeah,
of people's schedules, and everyone's schedule's
yeah,
so busy, and people don't want to be sidelined, right? They don't want to have their kids injured, anything like that. They don't want to be. And so being in the comfort of your own home and having us walk you through some assessments and evaluations. So what that looks like, we have our consulting. our evaluations online, so people can basically book that and say, hey, I want, an appointment so that I can see how I'm moving. Do I have enough flexibility? Am I strong enough? And so we can go through some different tests that way. And then we have a couple other options that are really cool within the business as we grow. We have our app that we just launched and developed, a strength and conditioning specialist, that is really kind of running that.
Cool.
So our team is growing,
So
and
your team is a critical part of that
yeah,
entrepreneurial journey, right?
and that's been one of those things that I would say, again, we got to a point year 3, 4 within the business that we kind of really plateaued,
Mhm.
financially there. And I was like, okay, if I wanted this to grow, we started bringing people on, people were reaching out. Um, and that was hard. That's a hard thing to do. I don't know, to let go of
Yeah.
something, to let go of full control, total control was really hard. It still is not necessarily easy. um, but now as I see like the growth of this, what has to happen is let go and give these therapists that we have, and these this our Jared, our strength and conditioning specialist, and other people within the business, that autonomy to really grow and really help it.
Mm.
And I think if we can all be on, I don't think, but in a business, if you're all on the same page, if you can all be like, the reason why we're doing this is for this
Yeah.
purpose, this mission right here, and then you can grow. And that's what I've realized this last year, the last 6 months really, is it's like, okay, we're going all in. I need people
Mm.
to help me. And people have come from
That's
all over the
cool.
place. And so
That's
we've been
really
able to
cool.
help
It's
people.
powerful.
So yeah, we have our app. We've got, working one-on-one with individuals. So what we call our season training, which is like really in-depth, evaluations and training regularly with them.
Is this kind of like a one time, or it's like regular training they get it on like a subscription
They
model
get it on like on a
and they're
subscription model.
in?
Yeah.
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 Okay.
So that's been really working really well, and people have been
Are
extremely.
these people that mainly need physical therapy, or are they trying to prevent or strengthen, kind of like some personal training as well? Is it kind of all the above?
Yeah, I'd say probably all the above. A lot of them have injuries, and so they want that. A lot of them have had those injuries, shoulder surgeries, or they're also trying to prevent shoulder
Yeah,
surgery so they can continue to bow hunt or
that's
shoot their
cool.
bow or whatever. So, oh, another thing that's really fun is left this out, that we work with the U.S. archery team.
Mm.
So we've worked with, professional Olympic athletes, and so I feel very grateful because we've been able to rub shoulders with a lot of really great people within this industry, but also just worldwide, with like very high level competitive athletes, all the way down to the people that are just starting out hunting, and they just are like, I don't want to have this knee pain anymore. What do I need to do?
Mm.
And then all the way down to, even again, young kids as well. So
Yeah,
we got a whole lot of stuff going on. And it's really fun, and that's what's been fun to is to see from an entrepreneur's perspective, is this growth of the business and
that's so
trying to
cool.
grow it.
There's multiple doctors working with you now, or
Yeah, so we have a team. Really, we have a team. It's myself. We got, Jared Thomas, who is one of our, strength and conditioning,
yeah,
high
Jared's
performance
awesome.
specialists.
Yeah,
Awesome guy. Same thing, same values, same mission. Then I have two therapists, one in Wisconsin and one in, Nebraska. And then we're looking at growing it to other states as well. And we have a few in mind, to really kind of have some of these regions that people can go to if they're there. And we'll, again, all this is all virtually as well. And then, have some administrative staff. We have some brand ambassador staff. We're growing our team of ambassadors.
cool.
And so it's really fun to see, again, just all come together on, a regular basis to really push the vision of this, is to, again, ensure people are just continuing to live a healthy life for as long as they can.
Yeah,
So
I love did you say get on the mountain, stay on the mountain?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's huge.
yeah,
I think that's amazing, and you can do it with your own father. You can do it with strangers. You can,
yeah,
helping so many people improve their lives that way. But stay on the mountain,
yeah.
stay climbing,
Stay climbing,
Yeah,
exactly.
that's so cool. Um, you mentioned earlier about leaving some security and going to do your own thing, and it's working and it's helping people and this and that. But it took a leap of faith. How has faith played a role in this journey for you?
Yeah, there's been a lot of times that faith, where I'm whether I'm down on my knees or not, just of like, how do we, or working with companies or in the mountains, just like, how do we do this? But having that faith of trusting, and I think it always comes back to me, my wife and I, as we've, prayed together on this of like, is this the right thing to be doing? It's hard. This is the hardest thing that I've ever done in my life, is growing this business. And it's not easy. Like I said, it's lots and lots of hours. But just realizing, like, Preston, you and your wife, you've you've had that answer, right? You've
Mm,
had that answer. Now trust, and let's go, and maybe we'll kind of course correct here
yeah,
and there, but just go with it, and use your skills and stuff. And so having that faith and relying on God to be like, help us develop this, because I think, um, yeah, again, our mission isn't to go out and make millions of dollars. Our mission is to really help people live a healthy life,
yeah,
and stay on course. Keep climbing. I like that. Like, continue to do what they love to do, and that's been that's been one of the challenges, is wanting to help so many people and giving so much, that from a business perspective, you're like, well, man, that was like, we actually, yeah, the company and the business does need to make some revenue, but if we're giving away all these services, or we're giving away all these different things, like,
yeah,
it's hard to find that balance, I
yeah.
think.
Yeah, because a person with the heart that you have, you want to help
Yeah.
everyone, right? And so,
And our doctors are the same way as well.
yeah,
Eric and Skylar, they're the same way. Like, they're just, well, we'll just see them for, we'll see them for free, or we'll just help them and stuff. And I'm like, that's good, but we also, like, this is a living as
yeah,
well. And so it's been really fun. But I think in general, that's what we have, as a team of just like, that wants to help people. And so we'll go to events, and then we'll get back and we'll be like, man, we're tired. That was a lot of work for we did help people, I
yeah.
guess. So
And there's reward in that,
there
and
is.
obviously you're providing a service that people should be willing to pay for because it's very valuable. And the crazy thing in life is we're so willing to pay money for this toy or
Hmm.
for this thing or this that, and then it's like, what about our health?
Yeah.
What are we willing to invest into this body that God's given us? And
Yeah.
I just think it's incredible that you're recognizing God in that, because what you are doing is you're taking care of his children,
Yeah.
and that's an amazing mission.
It is. Yeah.
And when you can remember that, and remember that, yeah, you and your wife on your knees, you felt prompted to do this, you felt called to do this, and you know that God confirmed that with you.
Yeah.
So you as an entrepreneur, you have to go back. You have to remember those moments,
Yeah.
those nights, those times when the spirit touched you and you knew that's what you needed to do. Also knowing that, like, that doesn't mean the process is going to be easy.
No.
It's going to be this or that, but you're doing something so good. So you have God on your side.
Hmm.
But I've always found also that when you're doing something so good for people and for their health, their well-being, their body that that houses their spirit, it's like there's an adversarial
Oh
effect
yeah.
where it's just trying to tear you down. It's trying to keep you from doing it. It's probably trying to demotivate you,
Yep.
discourage you. Why are you doing this? You can't do this. All these thoughts. I know through my process of building a business, and still today, it's like feelings of inadequacy, or like,
Hmm.
okay, this next phase of life, how do I continue to build? How do I gain momentum? How do I,
Yeah.
help my team? Like, and then you these doubts come into your mind, or these discouraging thoughts. It's like, no, anytime you're feeling that, and I would just say to the listener, like, if you're feeling those things, you're probably on the right path,
Yeah.
because I think the adversary would leave you alone if you're going down the wrong
Yeah.
path. Just
And I think you're absolutely right. There is our vision for this business, and what we do and who we can help, is is so great, which is why we have this team growing to help. It's so big, I'd say, to help people stay healthy, active, do the things that they want.
yeah,
Which comes down to more than just, here's some exercises and stuff. And
yeah,
and to your point, so like, having that vision, it's like, gosh, we want to grow this, we want to do that, but to that point that you said, there's so many people out there. We're at the Hunt Expo this last year, and so many people were walking around with bags of hats. They would rather go buy, put a hat on their head than they would spend a little money on themselves or that
Mm,
investment in themselves. And so we always use that term, like, you've got to invest in your
mm,
health. And I hope the listeners here have that, and I'm sure that they do. Not only desire, but like they see that vision of, if I want to continue to do X, Y, or Z, whether it's grow a business, whether it's be with my family, or whether it's be on the mountain, like, I've got to invest in my health.
yeah,
And I've always been a very big believer in taking care of yourself, which is sometimes hard to do because you're like, well, that's a very selfish thing. But I think it's more of a selfless thing, because if you can take care of yourself, now that's not saying neglect all your responsibilities and just go
right.
hunting or whatever that is. But if you can take care of your mental health, and your physical health, then you can lift your family. You
Yeah.
can be there. You can have that clear mind. You can be that better person that God really knows that you can be, wants you to be, to help other people,
Yeah, you could be
his
so
more of his
much more
children.
influential in the lives of others, especially those that you
Yeah,
love when you're, and what we say here at Mountain Ops often is you can't give what you don't have.
yeah.
And so if you don't have good health, how can you help somebody
Mm,
else in a way that that will be meaningful and impactful? So it is interesting to watch at these expos and stuff to see all the apparel and the hats. And that's good. It's a resource to those
mm-hmm.
businesses. We sell a ton of shirts and
Yeah,
hats
yeah,
at the
yeah,
expo. But how often are people willing to say, hey, I'm going to forego that for something that will better
yeah.
me? And sometimes people keep eating the Big Mac until they have a heart attack, and
Yep.
then once they have the heart attack, wow, all of a sudden it's important. But
Mm-hmm.
what and so I think your challenge in your business, and sometimes here at Mountain Ops as well, is helping people understand that preventative
Mm-hmm.
care is so important for your future. And at some point, it's going to matter.
Yeah,
Some point, you're going to be hit with something and you're going to wish that you had your health.
yeah.
That's going to be the only thing that matters to you at that point. And then you're like, oh, I'd do anything to just feel good again. Well, why not? Why don't we? Why is it so hard for people to get into that
Yeah.
mode of discipline and commitment to keeping themselves
Mm-hmm.
healthy to prevent things? Any thoughts around that?
I think we love. Yes, I've had a lot of thoughts on this.
Because is that one of your hurdles? Is
It
like
is
trying to say, hey,
100%.
this will help you. Because it's like, oh, well, I don't see the instant gratification
Don't
right
see the
now.
instant gratification. It's not. I'm going to grab this right here. It's not a tangible. It's not a tangible product. And
Mm,
not only that, is we take some beta alanine, excuse me, and may not see immediate results from it, or whatever it is. You definitely will with Mountain Ops brand. But
and the beta alanine, man, I start to itch and scratch. I love it.
yeah, right. You'll probably see it with that example.
I
But
get
at
it.
the end of the
Yeah,
day,
we get it.
we love tangible stuff, and you have to put in work for, really, if we're building muscle, you've got to put in work for. You'll see muscle gains within about 6 weeks. You'll not see it. You'll actually, we'll be able to test it,
Mm,
but you won't actually see hypertrophy and physical gains for 8 to 10 to
okay.
12 weeks. And so it's very hard, and it takes people's effort to do it. And so I think that's why, like, I've thought long and hard about this. Like, if it was just something tangible that we had, and people actually, they've said, they're like, you're in a hard space, Preston,
Yeah.
to really push this. And it is that's the biggest challenge we've had. And that's why growing this has been some of the most exciting and rewarding, but the most frustrating things that I've
Yeah.
done, because it's like, we want to help people and we have that ability to help people, but are people willing to, forego that, whatever it is, that hat, the Big Mac, if, let's say, that cup of coffee in the morning, whatever it is, if they're willing to forego going out to eat with their buddies, for lunch, and just take a home lunch, and they do that for a few weeks, then they've got those funds, right, to be
Mm,
able to invest in themselves, whether it's us or not. Like,
yeah.
I'm always said this, like, yes, we have our app, we have our programming, we have our one-on-one stuff, we have our evaluations. If The reason why we do what I do is we love working with outdoorsmen and hunters, but if it's not us, it's not an app. Like, I want you exercising, I
Yeah.
want you doing stuff,
Yeah.
because that's my role as a clinician, is to really help, bring evidence and true practice to people, the
Cool.
best evidence, so that they can stay healthy. And exercising 100% is part of it,
Yeah.
probably more so than the massages and all the different things
Yeah.
like that soft tissue work. I do a ton of soft tissue work, and it has its place, but that exercise has got to be number one.
Yeah.
And we're seeing that across so many different, um, so much research within the health industry, we'll call it, of like, you don't need to be on beta blockers. You can reduce your heart disease. You can do all these different things. You don't need to take medication if you're just investing in your health and what that investment looks like. And I always like the term investment
Yeah.
because an investment, when you're investing money, it takes a little bit of it's difficult
Yeah.
because you're like, well, I could hold on to this and I have this dollar bill, or I'm going to invest it. And that's a challenging thing to do. And so I've always liked that term investment
Yeah.
because it is challenging, but it's well worth it.
Yeah, because it yields a result,
Yeah.
right? Hopefully, like with money, it's like there's an element of risk.
Yep.
With your health and well-being, I don't see the risk involved in
Right.
people see that because they're putting money out for the service, but there's going to be a yielded result
Yep.
that will benefit your life. It's a win-win
It's a
situation.
win-win. Yeah.
Like you put that money down and you get the help from a mentor, from a coach, from a doctor. Eric McCormick always talks about the first thing is 5 elements of fitness is like first thing you form your team.
Yeah.
And in that team, you should have a Dr. Preston
Yeah.
Ward or one of your clinicians, and that investment will bring you a result. There's no questions
Yeah.
as long as you put in the work,
Put
as
it,
long as you follow.
and that's the
Yeah.
challenging
Okay.
aspect of it.
All
That
right.
is the number one.
People are hard, right?
People.
Even we all go through it sometimes.
Oh,
I'd
for
probably be a
sure.
horrible patient too, but it's like, no, you've got to, you invest and then you invest some of your time and your attention into what is being prescribed, and there's a result that will be
Yeah.
yielded.
Yeah, exactly. And at the end of the day, I mean, yeah, you think of all the things that we spend money on, whether it's, yeah, a cup of coffee every day or whatever it is, um, lunch,
It
McDonald's,
adds up,
it
right?
adds up. And if you could take just a fraction of that and just invest it into your health, there's always a reward and it's always going to be a net positive
Yeah.
gain for
That's
sure.
awesome. What's some of the results, or how have you quantified this over time with like tracking
Yeah.
patients and results? And even has there been some results in the hunting space where people are doing
Yeah.
what they love doing?
Yeah, we have our brand ambassadors right now, our kind of elite team. You can get on our website and kind of see who some of them are. Um, awesome people who really, and that's what's really fun to do is what we've done is really kind of get some of these elite members of the team. So I feel very, I said this the other day, I feel very lucky to someone on Instagram, and they quickly corrected me and they're like, "You're not lucky plus Preston. Blessed, you can say yes, but you've also put in so much hard work
Mm,
to this. And so it's because of what you've really
mm,
built." And it really kind of struck me. So we have put a lot of work into this, but been able to rub shoulders with a lot of really influential people. And so to see them continuing to stay healthy means a whole lot. I mean,
that's
when
cool.
we see someone, whether it's tagging out or not, but we just see someone out there outside after an injury, or we know some of the backstory. And the hard thing is, a lot of times they don't want to necessarily post that because it's a weakness, right? They're
Mm,
like, had this ankle injury. A lot of them don't want to do that. They're like, but just when we know there's backstories of like they had this ankle injury, this ankle fracture, the shoulder, whatever it is, and now they've overcome that. It's really
mm,
fun to see. But to your point, we have some really cool data. So as a as a as a researcher, I will say, so when I was up at the university, and actually still we still work with a lot of ACL injury patients, so post-op, pre-op ACL
mm,
injuries. So it's more than just like the mountain stuff, but we do a lot of stuff with athletics and youth. And so I did a lot of research on ACLs, presented a lot of data, presented a lot of it to different seminars and big like continuing education conferences.
yeah.
And so I presented a lot, and so it's been really fun. So I love the ACL side of things. So
Mm,
the reason why I bring that up is thinking about that from a clinician of like, okay, are there things that we can do that we can test to show that if people score on um, this test better, do they have greater success? And so what we did is we gathered, and when I say I really kind of gathered, I should say at this time, I gathered all this data from the research, put it together in a 25 point questionnaire type of deal. And when I say questionnaire, there's a lot of physical aspects of it, mental aspects of it, all the different factors that really would breed success in the backcountry.
Mm.
People can get on my website and get a free backcountry guide, is what
Guide.
we call
Yeah.
it. It's a PDF, so they can get that. And it just takes it's the mini version of it. So we did these 25 different tests, and we've presented this at the Western Hunt Expo, but we had people do it over the course of a couple seasons, and they're still doing it, or people are still doing it. And what was really cool to see, Trevor, was that when people scored at like a 90 percentile, 80 to 90 percentile of this test, so they scored, they completed almost every single one of these different metrics, then correlating that to how successful they were in the mountains. Hands down, those people that scored that 90 percentile had 4 out of 5 permits, tags punched, basically
So cool.
fulfilled. So it was really cool to see to translate, like, if you take better care of your mental health, your physical health, from your biometrics, and then what you have more success on the mountain,
The
which
return on the
yeah,
investment right there.
so from a hunting perspective, right? Everyone's like, well, I want to be successful in the
Yeah.
field. Well, there's a return on your investment. You put more
Yeah.
work into yourself, you'll have that return on your investment.
So cool.
Um, Plus you have the healthy body that ultimately you get to do it for just longer,
Longer.
better. And so that was a really cool thing. We've taken that same concept working with big brands and big companies. And one of the cool statistics that we just got back this last week working with this very large company here in Utah is that a very similar concept again. We saved them, or they had gone 1.4 million man hours without an injury.
That's huge.
So from as from like an
Yeah,
HR,
that's
from a
huge.
business perspective, like it's huge to see that if we can just implement some of these different strategies. And I will say some of those strategies that we're implementing are really just applicable to life in general, but they're very applicable to the hunter and the outdoorsman. So
So cool. Oh, that's
so
powerful.
cool stuff, really, like, and that's where I get excited because I kind of nerd out. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
well, how can we make people more successful? How
Yeah.
can we prevent injuries? How can, if people want to, avoid injuries, what do we need to do? The hard thing, and I wanted to say this earlier, the hard thing with some in like insurances in general is insurance. They have a very hard time with preventative
Hmm.
care, which I think is a backwards approach
Yeah.
to our health. And I think we're starting to see some of that change, but which is why we really have the model that we have, which is very unique. We come to you, right? We work with you where you're at. It's because um, insurances really struggle with that.
Hmm.
When in healthcare, oftentimes insurance will dictate a lot of how many visits you can be seen,
Hmm.
when in reality, the doctor might say, like, hey, you need a few more visits, or we're not even close to where your full potential is. And so um, that's been a big challenge as well, is like insurance will dictate that, and they don't really love that preventative side of things. Well, we love that preventative side
Yeah.
of things, and we have now significant substantial data to say, like, you do this, you implement this program that we have, you'll have better ROI,
Mm.
you'll have greater success, you'll save billions of dollars from a company perspective. Just really fun,
Yeah,
exciting
insurance isn't
things.
looking at personal potential,
No,
right?
no, no.
And but I think what you're offering, like who would not want to go after like their own personal
Yeah,
potential in life and take a risk on that,
yeah.
build upon that, and find growth that way. I'm thinking right now, I've got a back injury that I haven't told you about, and I don't know if it's an injury, I don't know if it's a pinched nerve, but I'm going live right now with all of you listening, and I'm gonna invest in having you help me.
Perfect.
I've got, and maybe we can kind of show some.
Yeah.
We can get back on and talk about some of these results. I don't know what happened about a month ago. There's certain workouts I don't do on a regular basis, and I'm physically active every day, pretty much 6 days a week in the gym. I love the outdoors.
Mhm.
I'm active in my lifestyle, but I did some not super heavy even. It was like some deadlifts and some Romanian deadlifts,
Mhm.
and I typically am sore a few days after doing those, especially if I haven't done them in a while.
Yeah.
But it's been 4 weeks now, and that soreness, it feels like it's
Hasn't
getting worse.
gone away.
It feels like maybe some sciatic nerve, like
Yeah.
going shooting pain down my legs. So, being in Lake Powell the last couple weeks and lifting things and tying things up and using the boats and everything, I'm
Yeah.
just like, I felt like an old man. I honestly couldn't move, and my wife even today is like, you gotta go get. And I'm just sitting here across the table from you. I'm like, okay,
Let's do this.
let's do this. I'll invest in
I'll
some
come
help
help.
from you,
Yeah.
and let's get this taken care of. Because I honestly, when you don't have the physical abilities that you even a month ago had,
Mhm.
it's not good, and
Yeah.
it affects you
And
emotionally and mentally. And it's like, no, I'm more active than this.
yeah.
I can do more than this.
Yeah. And most people I think are just like you, really. I think we're all like you. It's like especially even in this industry. I was just talking to a company on the way up here that they're like it's hard because you just want to muscle through it. You
Yeah,
just want to say I'm macho, I'm going to muscle through this. Well, then when it finally does get to a point 3, 4, 5 weeks down the road that you're like, this is really not getting
yeah,
better, and it's affecting my day-to-day life. It's affecting what I want to be doing and my full potential, right? That's when people take care of it. And so from the preventive side of things, we can 100%
okay,
help from that aspect of it. But yes, there's things that we should look at
okay,
and test. And ultimately what I'll do is I want to test certain muscles and say, why did this happen? Was it just because you did deadlifts, or is it because there's a muscle imbalance? Is there a
mm,
muscle imbalance in your lower body, in your core? Is it form? We can go through all of that. And then certainly we can do the whole hands-on side of things. Maybe it's just manipulation, maybe it's some dry needling, whatever it
yeah,
is. Again, from a clinician's perspective, and when people have that stuff done, it helps, but the active component of it, that exercise and the fitness and the changing up form and everything, the technique where we go through as experts on that, that's really like giving you the long-term
yeah.
success. And so we like to give people long-term success. So
Well, let's work on that, and
yeah,
I'm excited that I'm gonna. I mean, you've helped me in the past, but this will be something that I
yeah,
need right now. We can track and we can report back to the
perfect.
people listening. Um, what's been the highlight of this journey for you, and what you're doing? It sounds like you love working with people and seeing
Hmm.
them improve. But what, in your words, like what's been the highlight of this journey so far? You've still got a long
Yeah.
way to go, and
Oh man,
which is
don't tell me
exciting.
that.
What I mean by that is like so much more people to bless, and
There
so
is.
many, and it's exciting in my opinion that like you're young, you got a young healthy family, and
Hmm.
you guys are going after it. I think it's exciting that the best is yet to come, right?
It really is. I say that because I just know the work that's involved,
Yeah.
which I'm not um yeah opposed to. Like it is a lot of hard work. It's, again, the hardest thing that I've ever done. But I think for me, I think for me, again, seeing the success of our of our athletes that we've worked with, whether they've been like, it's been extremely fun to work with very large companies, Mountain Ops being one of them, and having that relationship with people. I was going to say this, if you and I ever go on a hunt, um, I am not opposed to seeing the first, 2 point that walks out and shooting that,
Yeah.
because I want a memory with you. I
Um,
like I like to have those experiences. And so
well, not if, let's say when
let's
we go on
let's
a
do it.
hunt.
I'm not opposed to being like, well, it's not the biggest one, and I know people may either like or
Yeah.
hate that thought, but if I'm by myself, then okay, I have got a challenge, and I'll
Yeah.
push myself to really kind of find that bigger animal. And so I think building the relationships 100% has been the best thing in this, the best thing about this. And
Mm,
I've feel very blessed again where I live, where we started this, the time that we did it, the companies, the people we've got to work with, and then just on a daily basis, seeing people succeed, overcome an injury, get back to running their 5K, go back to running an ultra marathon, get back into the gym, or see that hold up that trophy at the end of the day on those pictures on Instagram and everything. That's been some of the absolute best thing. Actually, this was a really cool story. This gentleman that we just worked with, or been working with for a little bit, um, he took his dad's bow on. His dad passed away about a year ago. He took his dad's bow on a hunt, and his dad was so excited for him to go on this bear hunt. And so get a little bit choked up on this. To see him and work with him, he had this shoulder injury. He's like, Preston, I'm going on this hunt in a week. My dad passed a year ago. It was a really hard thing for him. My dad was so excited for me to go. He's like, I don't think I'll be able to go. Like,
Mm,
and that meant a lot to me. I'm like, we've got to do whatever it
mm,
takes. Let's do this. Let's work with you. Worked with him, followed up with him. He's like, I'm feeling great. Goes on this hunt, shoots it. And so it was very
wow.
emotional for him because he was there, felt like his dad
Yeah.
was there. And for
Powerful.
us to see not only just like some of our apparel there, we don't have a whole lot there of apparel, but just to see him there from the physical, that's our reward. And that
Yeah.
was a really, really great moment for me to say,
Awesome.
like, this is bigger than just again growing this big
Yeah.
business. It's really about these people that we're working with.
About
And
relationships, right? That's so powerful. That's awesome. And congratulations on all the success so far.
thank you.
And the road ahead is bright for
It
you
is.
and your family and all those that you'll bless. Where do people find you so that they can learn more about this, so they can engage with your services? How does that
Yeah.
happen?
Mountainphysio.com. It's MTNPHYSIO.com. That's where you can get everything,
Okay.
contact information, submit questions. We have some free discovery visits. Like, we want to make sure it's a good relationship. You
Yeah.
can meet with me, some of our doctors. Um, I'm active on social media, some of our YouTube. We do a lot of videos on YouTube to give things away that way to help
Yeah.
people. But really, mountainphysio.com is where people can get on there. And
Very cool.
yeah,
That's awesome. I appreciate that. There's a question that I like to end. I think I've done it on most. There's been a few that I haven't, but a book we read here at Mountain Ops every so often that helps us kind of bring things back to investment. We've been talking about investment in life and which ones yield the greatest result and such. But the title of the book is How Will You Measure Your Life?
hmm.
As a conqueror, Preston, Dr. Preston
Yeah,
Ward. And when all is said and done, how will you measure your life?
that is a great question. I think I'm gonna go read that book.
It's a good one.
I think for me, again, it goes back to being able to give and being able to build my my family, my daughter. I think
Mm,
that's how I'm going to measure my life is at the end of the day, the type of person who I was, was I able to give so much to other people? And I think that's a big part of what I want to do is just give of my time, my energy, my skills, my talents to people. And I want to say how I'm going to probably measure my life
awesome.
is then seeing my daughter do the same and my wife, and they're already way ahead of me, I'm sure. Like, they're really good influences on me. But if I can be able to build my family that way, then I think and not only that, but just the culture and the brand that we have as a company, and seeing people also helping and lifting others, that's how I want to measure my life.
That's awesome. I think you must have read the book already because
Perfect.
there's so many ways, and there's no wrong answer or right answer. It's just the book does talk about investments into those relationships that matter
Yeah.
most, that then will then be passed on for generations to come, and so that it's a result that's yielded over generations
Yeah. Yeah.
through people,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's exactly what you've just shared. So
Perfect.
appreciate it, man.
What's the book called again?
How Will You Measure Your Life?
How will you measure your life?
Clayton Christensen,
Okay.
Harvard professor. It's one we've read a few times here in our book club. But thank you for your time. You're
Yeah.
incredible. Now let's go work on my back.
Let's do it.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.